the season, summertime, anytime you like, really, that Arsenal will go into this game. And I think it's a 50-50 game. Essentially, the bookmakers have made it. You'd be laughed out of the place considering some of the odds Arsenal have gone off against Liverpool in the past. What are you going to make of where these two teams are at? I think, I'm kind of going into the game thinking as an Arsenal fan that it's the perfect time to play Liverpool given the form they're in. But you kind of touched on me off air that it's probably the worst time considering they'll be motivated for this game. Klopp for the first time in ages has been written off. Mo Salah's been written off, but you saw a few signs in that Rangers game, albeit at the opposition, that this could be a very, very big performance coming from Liverpool on Sunday.
Yeah, I'm actually intrigued, and even watching Haaland the other day from Man City, I was intrigued to see how Arsenal will cope with him, with Saliba, with Ben White, with Gabriel, and that back four that's really set in stone at the minute with Zinchenko, and you have the option of bringing in Tierney, which he might against Liverpool. Tierney has a decent enough record against Salah. Like Salah still, he's got a great record against most teams. But 1-on-1, you'd fancy Tierney a little bit more than Zinchenko in defensive areas. But there's two ways of looking at it. It'll be a test of Arteta's resolve and way he doesn't want to change for anyone if he plays Zinchenko. And similar with Klopp, if he goes there and plays that 4-2-3-1 that works so well against, not that it worked so well against Rangers, but the reason it worked was the ability for Jota to get in those places and spaces rather, and link up with Núñez and Salah a lot more.
Just on that, would that mean dropping Fabinho or not bringing him in again?
No, well, I'd bring Fabinho in and maybe put Fabinho and Henderson and maybe drop a Thiago and think you're not going to get as much as the ball against Arsenal and try and hit them more on that kind of transition or the counter-attack way. But again, it would be a statement from Klopp to go to do that and go and win and beat Arsenal by playing a 4-2-3-1. I think he might play it a little bit safe and go 4-3-3. Jota's got a brilliant record against Arsenal. I think he might go Salah, Jota, and Diaz, and maybe give Núñez a rest. But he's got a lot of options, and that's the one thing that would surprise you about Liverpool this season. I know they haven't played well, is that bar midfield, like they've a pretty decent squad. Like that, Firmino's been probably their standout player in the league this season, and again, he's got a fabulous record. They all seem to have great records against Arsenal, but he has that ability as well to kind of play in that position Jota did against Rangers. So it's a huge test for both sides. If Liverpool lose this, a lot of people say they're out of the title race now, but they're in a huge battle for Champions League honours, even so early in the season. But if they win, I still think they'll finish above Arsenal. But it's a huge chance for Arsenal to play the way they've been playing this season. They've been very impressive. I think a lot will be on. We see the photo there in the background, Trent Alexander-Arnold and Martinelli, and it was you forget that in March time or April time last year when the two sides played, it was a huge game for both teams, with Arsenal going for top four and Liverpool going for the league title, and Liverpool found a way of winning, even though it was a big test for them that night. And it was an interesting battle between Martinelli and Alexander-Arnold. And Martinelli's a real live wire; he'll keep running at you. But I know Alexander-Arnold got turned a couple of times, but I didn't think overall he didn't do a bad job. Obviously, he's come under criticism defensively. We know his ability in the final third, but defensively he was poor in the last couple of weeks. So it's a big game for him, and if he can come out of that test clean and with a clean sheet, and it just proves again to Southgate and to the doubters that he can do it. But it's going to be a brilliant game, but a huge game for Arsenal. I think if Arsenal offered Arteta a point now, I think he'd take it. But Arsenal have a good record at the Emirates in recent.
Yeah, well, their Emirates record, but it's usually particularly it was initially their record against bottom half teams, but I guess over the last few months they've accumulated a couple of good results against Spurs, etc. But yeah, on that and Arsenal's lineup, while I kind of agree, you could argue Tierney might come in. I just think, and I touched on this with the off-air before, that Arteta spent his first season giving up his principles to get a back five to the squad of players he had to win an FA Cup. He then started bringing young players through, but at times you would have had to sit in, park the bus at Anfield, park the bus at Etihad, and various other away games, particularly like Old Trafford, for example, getting dominated out of possession. But I just think now he has a team, and he'll feel this team can compete with a Liverpool, maybe not Liverpool last season, but a Liverpool at the moment, that I think 100% Zinchenko's his man. I don't think the more I watch Zinchenko, he was brought in for the small teams, do you know what I mean? Or maybe a home game against Spurs at max. I think he was brought in to dominate a game like this. So I just think Arteta has finally got a squad of players and finally got a starting 11, particularly a starting 11, maybe not the squad yet, that is built on his principles, and that is ultimately Zinchenko playing, and then Ben White, it's sort of at times a back three. Zinchenko can come in the middle. I mean, Xhaka can go forward, Partey centre mid, and that front three and front four with Odegaard takes care of itself. So I'd be very surprised if Tierney comes into the team. And I have to say, in fairness to him, his performances have gotten better and better since his injury. And I know he's had the concussion thing since, and you could see he was buzzing to come on and make an impact at Spurs. He was disappointed with his shot. If you watch the Arsenal fan, or not the fan cam, the bench cam, I don't think Arteta was overly impressed with him going for that shot either at the time, given the score. We were 2 goals up, a few minutes left. So I think ultimately Zinchenko's Arteta's man. He'll go with him. That's why he'll ultimately go with Jesus. Ultimately go with the players he's brought in. I guess most of them are now. So that's it. And the last thing on Arsenal, and look, the lads will tell you here, I was watching the game now. I forgot I couldn't really walk, so I went to celebrate the opening goal, and I only got as far as standing up, had to sit down. Second goal, I gave it a good cheer while sitting down. But the third goal, when Granit Xhaka scored that goal, Sean, I'm not going to lie, it was close as I probably had to tears in my eyes watching Arsenal and supporting Arsenal since really 2001 was my first memory, but I guess properly, over the last 10, 15 years, particularly those latter Wenger years. But to see Granit Xhaka come through what he has done, and look, not a lot of people backed him, but we definitely backed him on the podcast. Well, I think I definitely backed him on the podcast. You did to a point. You were somewhere in the middle, and then we had other people on who didn't. But I think what he's gone through there to come back from throwing the armband down, and look, I was never a fan of booing him off the pitch that day, because he was just frustrated. He showed a human element and a human reaction, and the fans got on his back. And I understand in a ground like that, people were frustrated at him getting off, but I can see why Xhaka reacted like that. And some of the nonsense you read about him over the last couple of years, and to a point, some of the nonsense I'm reading now, where it's like, oh, Xhaka is finally playing his best stuff because he's in his best position. And absolutely, he's that position arguably gets the best out of Granit Xhaka. But Granit Xhaka doesn't play in that position for Switzerland. He plays as a deep line midfielder that he has for Arsenal over the last few years. So it's not just a box-to-box midfielder that Granit Xhaka is. He can also play deep line midfielder. And in my opinion, has been playing very well for Arsenal over the last 2.5, 3 seasons. But without those goals, assists, and people see that, it's very hard to back a player like Granit Xhaka when he'll make a mistake that will ultimately cost Arsenal a goal. But in my opinion, in the long run, will get you far more keeping the ball, getting Arsenal moving and trying to pass. And he's been Arteta's key man for the last 2.5, 3 seasons. So while I accept he's gone on to a new level with this box-to-box midfielder, and yes, it is definitely ultimately, well, we're looking at the last 6-7 weeks, it's definitely his best position. I think he's been a consistent performer for Arsenal for the last 2.5, 3 seasons. And this bollocks you read that red cards, and he's got this reputation. I think it's 4 Arsenal red cards in his career, none in the last couple of years. So outside the City game, I think so. That's probably one in the last couple of seasons. So for me, and I actually don't think that was a red card, but for me, his reputation's gone before him a lot and the only way he would ever have rescued his reputation was scoring goals and assists in a box-to-box role and getting on the ball and passing around. So I want to get your take on Xhaka in general, but I don't think this point's been made at all that he's not just a box-to-box midfielder. He has been playing well in the deep line role with Partey before Zinchenko came on the scene. But yeah, he's gone on to a new level now, and it's a weird feeling seeing love for a player that you back, because I get plenty of things wrong, but when you get something half right, you kind of feel I don't know, I just got very emotional. I see a leader in Granit Xhaka that I hadn't seen a leader on this team since Thierry Henry, so I'd like to get your take on his performances, because he's been unbelievable, hasn't he?
I think you mentioned there he's Mikel Arteta's man. I think if you were to probably pick 3 players that best sum up the job Arteta's done, you'd probably pick Saka because he's nearly played every minute. You'd probably pick Ramsdale because a lot of people were questioning the sign. He's turned out to be a huge success. But I think most importantly, you pick Granit Xhaka. Like you see where Xhaka was mentally, where he was with the Arsenal fans when Arteta took over, to where he is now. his name being sung all around the Emirates and in away grounds, and he's got that smile on his face and he's enjoying his football. I think it just shows you how big a job Mikel Arteta has done. And he immediately came in, recognised the importance of Xhaka, not just to the on the pitch, but also in the dressing room. And I think it also proves how poor an appointment Unai Emery was as Arsenal manager. And you look at the players and what Unai Emery tried to do. He tried to control the dressing room as much as possible and tried to get rid of people who've been there a while, like Wilshere and Ramsey, and players who've been in the background and brought in a lot of different characters. That very few are still here playing and thriving. But you have to give credit to Unai Emery for giving Bukayo Saka his Arsenal debut. But what I would say about Xhaka is, in recent, if you watch him, like his left foot has always been outstanding. We haven't. The one thing you would have always said is you probably haven't seen enough goals from him. You haven't seen him in enough creative areas, and that's the one thing he has brought to his game since the start of the season. But I think Arsenal fans, and very reflectful and very straight Arsenal fans, would say Xhaka's probably been him and Saka being the two players over the last year or 2 months that have been consistent, that have been there, and nearly every game playing, rarely injured. And Xhaka is the heartbeat at the Arsenal side, and he's playing his best football now, of course. But as you said, like he's been getting criticism for a long time, and people saying he can do daft things. And then for me, I watch Fabinho. Fabinho makes it. Obviously, Fabinho's in a different level to Xhaka, but when Fabinho makes a foul, it's not a big deal, let's say, when a Xhaka makes a foul. And Fabinho, if you watch him, does make an awful lot of yellow card tackles that he might get away with. But as I said,
and a player like Rodri as well.
Yeah, exactly. And Jack has just been, to see him now and to see the transition from where he was when Arteta took over to where he is now, I think highlights what a brilliant job Arteta has done. Still an awful long way to go, and there is a question about whether he can go that extra step with Arsenal. But whatever you would say is, if Arteta was to go in the morning, the person taking over from him is in a far superior place to now than if he had taken over when Arteta did. And I think that's highlighted in Xhaka. And as I said, ever since that Switzerland performance against France in the Euros, he's just seemed to have gone on another level. I think he's been rejuvenated by the signings of Jesus and Zinchenko, because I think they've brought that winning mentality that he has. He's always had that. He's always demanded a lot from his teammates, probably a little bit too much on the pitch at times, with a couple of red cards and trying to be a little bit too forceful. But I definitely think he's looking at Saliba coming in as well, particularly Jesus and Zinchenko, and gone, we are stepping forward again. Because there was an incident after the Newcastle game where he came out and spoke last year when Arsenal lost to really dent all hope of Champions League football. And he came out and said, we need to be more brave, we need to play and don't go hiding. And I think he was right in the sense that Arsenal never tried to build from the back in that game. It was kind of, let's try and protect what we have. And we were, obliterated by Newcastle. It could have been a lot worse than what it was. But as I said, he's looking around that dressing room thinking it's not going to happen this year. It could well happen, but I think he feels that. And then also you got to give credit to the fans who, got a song going from the obviously the whole atmosphere at the Emirates changed. Give a shout out to the Ashburton Army. They've been brilliant work getting the atmosphere and the clock in. And even when Arsenal conceded, the penalty goes in, the Kane scores, the roar then is for the players to go again. And it all started with that City game on, I think it was January 1st.
New Year's Day, yeah.
New Year's Day, when Arsenal were very unlucky to lose that to a penalty decision on poor old Xhaka, which was harsh.
Oh, yeah. Forgot about that.
A late Rodri goal. But from ever since that, the Arsenal fans sung them off the pitch, and they've seen something in this team. And I think Xhaka reflects the change, and he's been outstanding so far this season, and long may it continue. And one thing you always say is, and people always say, every manager who he plays for, they pick him. And also his fitness record, touch wood, has been absolutely outstanding since he's joined Arsenal. So he's a brilliant player, and from, as I said, the journey he's gone on the last 3 years, I don't think I've seen it in many clubs before with many players. I think there's probably a handful of players where they've gone from zero to hero, but I think Xhaka is on that track, and can you imagine the redemption story ending with a Premier League title or Europa League?
Oh, you got
The
too
best
far
thing
into
is,
that sentence to back out. Yeah.
now I must say that it was a brilliant line from Darren Fletcher on BT when he said, "From the outhouse to the penthouse," and I think that sums up Xhaka now. He's the main man at Arsenal. And if, he's the one player now at the minute that it seems to be
Yeah.
seems to be the glue that's holding a lot of it together.
And not BT Sports' biggest fan of their coverage, but the commentary from Fletcher there and at that game and for the goals was, and I listened to Peter Jury's one after, and the biggest comment I'll give to Fletch, I actually call him Fletch now that I can't even remember his first name. Is it Stephen Fletcher or doesn't matter? Yeah, what's the name, sorry? Darren Fletcher. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that. And I just thought they were pretty similar, which kind of is the biggest compliment I can give to him. Last thing on the Arsenal fans and Granit Xhaka, and you touched on it a little bit in terms of Emery, Wenger always picking him. I think Granit Xhaka, rightly or wrongly, he was a victim of the timing he came into Arsenal. Like he's come in and Arsenal have literally not been in the Champions League since then. So, in fairness, I understand how Arsenal fans got on his back when you see the red cards, when you see the stupid stuff that he has done and given away penalties, absolutely for sure. But I agree with everything you say there, and I do think that the bigger picture should have been seen on that, and that winning mentality he has. And you saw it the way he played in Switzerland. He actually played very well in the international break as well for Switzerland. And yeah, I'm delighted for him. But again, I also think he has played well for a long time outside this season. He's just taking it to a new level because of that new position. But yeah, absolutely delighted for him in fairness. So last thing, Sean?
Last thing I'd say is you got to give him credit, because you look at how hard a position Harry Maguire's in now with all the social media stuff we talked about before. It's ridiculous. But Xhaka was in a similar position, if not worse, and he was getting an awful lot of abuse from whoever, these anonymous accounts or whatever it was. And his father, I mean, if you listen to a few interviews he's done, his father said it's not worth the hassle. Mourinho would come in, that Rome at the time, other clubs would come in, that leave, don't give Arteta the time of day. And he stuck by it, he stuck through it, and fair play to him. And his, like, you look at that mental strength, it is outstanding, and it's pretty unique in modern day players. You don't see that kind of resilience. It's kind of it's not a rare quality as maybe you would have seen 10 or 15 years ago, or maybe it's perceived that way. But Xhaka showed immense resilience to hold through, even with the kind of social media backlash he got at different times.
Yeah, and I just on that, he responded to a few, and it suits his personality to do that. And I think it's ultimately up to the individual how people deal with abuse. A lot of people say, "I'll just ignore that stuff," but for him to get through that, particularly when people were saying stuff about his family and his wife and his kid and kids now, I think it suited his, as I said, his personality to come back at that, and I've absolutely no problem with that at all. And to be honest, I'd encourage it for anyone to whatever way they want to deal with it as best they can.
But even I saw an older Arsenal fan put up on Twitter of him meeting Xhaka in kind of a furniture store or whatever, and you can see the smile on Xhaka's face, and it must be brilliant for him to have gone through that relationship with the fans to now being, as I said, top of the ladder, almost top of the tree, alongside Arteta with sort of fan love. So fair play to him.
And just on the personality, like if you might think he's playing a lot into it and he might get carried away, but I think again it suits his personality to do that and to get on top of things and to ride that wave. So yeah, fair play to him. And look, you wish that for a lot of other players. You touched on Harry Maguire. Like people forget the season United came second, he was one of United's best players, and I wouldn't be a particular high Harry Maguire fan, but I don't think Paul Merson was right at the time in what he said in terms of United, but ultimately the way the team has come around him, and then once his head is gone, he's been absolutely atrocious for the last 6 to 9 months. And to be honest, it was on Southgate to take him out of the team, and Ten Hag, I was surprised he started with him this season. But with social media abuse and stuff, you do like seeing those players kind of proving a point. So maybe that could be the blueprint for a player like Harry Maguire. Who knows? So because you might laugh now, but if we were talking 2 or 3 years ago, in fact, when I was talking, I only got as far as a couple of words because people weren't listening.